Frank did $24 million recap. Like, that's a big deal. 100 homes, $24 million, one shot, 15.
Recap, what does that look like?
He's half built, has a shitty lender who changed.
Getting out of a bad loan.
Yeah,
right?
well, they changed the interest rate on Dutch interest. They went from non-Dutch. So they went from interest on drawn dollars to interest on total loan and went from 9% to 12%. The borrower was paying $304,000 a month in interest to the lender. And he was like, I can't build. And the lender wouldn't. And he would start to default a little bit. And the lender was like, well, I'm not going to give you money for the draws. So he's got 100 homes, 60%, 70% complete. And the lender's not looking at him going, how do I help you win? Which is what
and the guy's a stud.
That's our job. The guy built 400 homes.
Legit. So he's a real.
Not necessarily the developer's fault. Sounds like the market caught up with him.
Yeah, and we should talk about this because I think most lenders are scared to be real. So one of the things that the biggest risk an institutional lender has, all of them, the ones that aren't owned or the ones that are owned by private equity and the ones like us that are independent that are larger, is that the appetite for the money and the risk, when it's risk off on the street, they change everything and they don't care, right? Because their mandate is to run billions of dollars over all asset classes, right? And they're looking at every asset class going, what's my best risk-adjusted return? Well, there's plenty of other risk-adjusted. You can get corporate debt at 9.5 right now from Apple, right? And so why would I go do speculative real estate around the country in a market where I'm uncertain in the interest rate environment they have? So they may change their direction because they have a mandate and a stewardship.
And they do.
And so for the first time in 6 years, we had to actually retrade borrowers on pricing. We've never had to do that. Now, granted, we were 1.5 points below the market on new construction and have been the whole year, and all of our competitors were backed up with the exception of one or two of them. We had to retrade. Our borrowers understood because we go the extra mile, and we were honest with them, and we explained to them that, we have to retrade you. It's out of our control. And we're taking losses on some of them, and some of them we're having to retrade, right? And so, like, our big customers we're taking care of, and we'll eat it. We'll eat the cost, and some of them we have to have a conversation and go, man, we priced you below the market. We made a mistake. We fucked up. We got retraded, but it's not your problem. It's our problem, and we're going to work to fix it, right? So we'll get other concessions. We'll do that, but we're getting the fucking loans done for it. But every other lender wants to bullshit you. I've never been retraded. We got retrade on $50 million fucking pipeline. So like, unless you have $50 million coming out of your ass, I don't know how you're closing these loans. We had to come back and figure it out, and we did. But I think it's important to know that the market's moving and borrowers need to be aware. And what their expectations were. Sorry, Frank, but their expectations were 2 months. This is a moving target that we are doing our absolute best as lenders
that's
to
what
manage.
I wanted to touch on.
Right, we're doing our absolute best to manage, and it's a day by day. And what we've been able to do is mitigate that day by day and be consistent with them. And this is the first time we've retraded. And it sucks, man, because that's our fucking mission is to never do that. That's the worst thing a borrower wants. Because what you're checking in the lending game is really relatability. Do you understand my business? And are you reliable? Are you a reliable lender? When I have money hard on a big deal, are you going to close my loan and close the loan at the terms you said, assuming the borrower says the right things? There's a lot of examples. A lot of examples of borrowers not saying the right thing, and then But anyway, I'm getting passionate about it because I think it's important.
I want to, and Frank, I know you wanted to say something. I don't know if Ryan.
Go.
I just wanted to relate that. How does all this end up? Like, it sounds like, first of all, you guys are kind of caught between a rock and a hard place where you're forced to do something you don't want to do. Is that because of the Fed rate? They set that high rate. That affects your guys, which affects you, which affects the borrower, kind of trickles down like that.
Yeah, I mean, so homes are, and we should talk about this because this is actually more on your side of the business, but what they're seeing at a national level are homes are starting to sit longer. The interest rate environment's prohibitive for new home buyers, right? So that's all happening. People are back to work. So New York, you can't just go disappear to Florida anymore and hang out and go once a week, right? Like that doesn't work anymore. These guys want everybody back because they're doing layoffs. Yeah, student debt that came back online in October. Lots of changes in the market, right? A lot of uncertainty around the political system, a lot of wars.
Internationally,
So they look at all that, and Wall Street hates more than anything uncertainty.
Right.
And on top of you're seeing delinquencies under 680. So 680 credit score and above, we're seeing guys stay true to what they say. Below, they're seeing massive spikes in delinquencies. So has that
ticker kind of moved up on a credit score? Now you're really paying attention to the actual borrower's creditworthiness?
Correct. And liquidity. This has all been debt fueled for the last decade. Nobody has any money. It's all been fueled by the institutions providing debt to guys like us, and then debt on the other side to either acquire through iBuyers or somebody getting really cheap paper to afford a home that they probably couldn't afford.
That piece about the borrower, right, their credit score, that is something that I'm hearing now is a little bit different than before. For the last year and a half, 2 years, it was always like, oh, asset-based lender, we don't care about your credit score, we don't care, we just want to see the property you're buying. Has that shifted? It sounds like it has.
At the institutional level, credit's always, that's the difference between a hard money lender and an institutional lender. The hard money lender is going to be 100% asset-based. We're going to really look at three things: sponsors' ability to execute. So what's their track record? What's their credit profile? Do they pay their bills? Liquidity. Do they have the cash to get through this project? And then does the asset make them money? So those are the four kind of critical components. I would tell you liquidity and credit have become higher and higher on the standard and not just the asset anymore because of what they're seeing on an aggregate level at the institutions that have billions and billions of dollars.
If you start bleeding, right, if you're building high volume and you start bleeding and you have to start fire selling your assets, or, you just need to stop the bleeding, there needs to be enough cash.
Right.
Just to know that you can plug a hole, right? And that's really and
you guys are paying attention to that more now than ever.
The institutions are, and so that affects us, right? It affects us in the form of leverage and rate and the ability to place paper and the exposure that they want to give a borrower. And you also have a decade full of I'm old, so I'm going to take a shot here. Like guys flexing on fucking Instagram, right? That don't actually have anything or live in debt fueled. Like there's a handful of real developers in every market, and there's a handful of people flexing really hard. And the guys that are real developers are going to continue to thrive in this market and see opportunities, and that's where lenders are going to step up, and maybe the folks that were flexing are going to struggle.
I mean, you probably see on your side too, right? It's like how many agents are going to get pushed out of this market because it's so goddamn competitive.
A lot.
A lot. We always talk about this every time I'm on the pod. Everyone in Tampa is in real estate. That's going to stop. That's going to, you're no longer guys were able to just we deal with brokers, right? Often. and that's another thing we can talk about. We're shifting away from dealing with brokers because their loans typically have a higher default rate, right?
But dive into that because you were a broker on the commercial side and then the brokers on the residential side. And I think it's a real key difference on what Frank has seen on the commercial side and what we see over here.
Right. Yeah. So when I was on the commercial side, as a broker, you're delivering a full package. You're doing a full analysis of the deal. You're delivering this file to the direct lender saying, hey, this is the deal. This is why it makes sense. Here are the economics. It's a comprehensive package pertaining to the project, right? And at that level where you're dealing with, bigger deal sizes, you need to add that type of value as a broker. Otherwise, there's no reason for you to be there, right? And it's very cutthroat. In our business over the last, let's call it 5 years, 10 years, it was very easy as a broker. You go, oh, okay. Hey, Garrett, you want to build a house? Cool. Hey, Frank, ifundcities, I got this guy who wants to build a house. He's got pretty good credit and he's got pretty good liquidity. I'm going to introduce you. And then I start talking to you and I bring the deal all the way to the finish line and then they rip a point. Greedy ones rip 2, some rip 3, right? And that,
it's crazy. Crazy.
And so those days are over, because I'm not going to waste my time, right? Like you want to broker a deal to me? Tell me why it makes sense, because I'm already servicing all of my guys, So if you want to get in line here, the second you waste my time as a broker, you're done, right?
More importantly, the broker's not going out on site, right? They're not doing anything besides flipping a name to Frank.
Right.
Right. That's it, right? So that borrower is getting no value from that. Why would he pay an extra point or 2 points when he can go to Frank and get real value?